when Elena Vance, my CEO wife, learned that I had voluntarily ceded a multi-million-dollar project to her favorite young assistant. She assumed her 3-month Cold War against me had finally paid off. She was beaming, proactively suggesting we finally go on our honeymoon to Iceland. But she didn't know that the last page of that project transfer agreement was a divorce settlement she had signed with her own hand. When she flaked on our honeymoon yet again to soothe her jealous assistant, handing him the plane tickets instead, I simply nodded. She thought I was finally being sensible. She didn't see that as I turned around, my ring finger was already bare. Elena walked out of the study wearing a smile that suggested the rain had cleared and she was back in total control. Honey, about the Polaris project. Are you sure you're okay with letting Julian lead it? She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, her tone laced with a charity-like gentleness. I was crouching on the floor, using a wet wipe to clean up a coffee stain her cat had knocked over. Yeah, I've thought it through. I didn't look up. He's young, he's got drive. He's been learning from you for a long time. It's time he stood on his own 2 feet. The air went quiet for a few seconds. I could feel Elena's gaze on me, assessing me like an object that had finally been tamed. I'm really glad you see it that way. She walked over and crouched down, seemingly to help, but her hand paused in midair before finally resting on my shoulder for a patronizing pat. I know I've been cold lately. The pressure at the company has been insane. Don't take it to heart. She explained, you're my husband, after all. You're still in my heart. I wiped the last spot, tossed the wipe into the trash, stood up, and looked at her. Her eyes were bright, reflecting my silhouette, a calm man in loungewear. I know, I nodded. My obedience satisfied her immensely. She took my hand, her face showing a long-absent enthusiasm. To reward you, let's go on our honeymoon. We'll go to Iceland, just like you always wanted. We'll see the northern lights. I watched as she excitedly pulled out her phone to search for flights and hotels, acting as if our 3-month Cold War and the countless nights I'd spent alone in this empty house had simply vanished with this reward. I didn't speak. I just silently walked into the kitchen to start dinner. In 3 years of marriage, I had washed my hands of the business world to make soup for her. I gave up a career I was proud of to become what she called her strongest support. She went from a fledgling entrepreneur to a dominating female CEO, and I went from her business partner to her house husband. She had grown used to my sacrifices, used to my concessions, to the point where she believed everything I did was simply expected. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from Julian Hayes' Instagram feed, a photo of a plane ticket. Destination, Iceland. The caption read, thanks to CEO Vance for the validation. The best reward. Heart. I turned off my phone and dumped the sliced beef into the pan. A sizzling sound erupted, and the aroma instantly filled the air. Elena's phone rang right on cue. Hello, Julian? What's wrong? Her voice instantly shifted to nervousness. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, only that Elena's brow furrowed tighter and tighter. Okay, don't throw a tantrum. When have I ever lied to you? It's just one project. There will be other chances after the honeymoon. Her voice dropped lower as she took the phone into the bedroom and shut the door. 10 minutes later, she came out. Her face carried a mix of apology and undeniable resolve. Honey, the honeymoon might have to be postponed. I stirred the beef in the pan with chopsticks, not looking at her. Why? Something urgent came up at the company. A business trip to Europe. It's critical. I have to go personally. She walked up to me, her tone softening even more. You know how it is? The Polaris project just got handed over. I'm not comfortable leaving Julian alone with it yet. I need to mentor him a bit more. I turned off the stove and plated the dish. So, the tickets to Iceland, you gave them to him? I asked. Elena froze for a second, then explained with unnatural casualness. Well, they were non-refundable anyway. It would be a waste. Consider it a reward for him. Let him blow off some steam so he comes back more motivated. She paused, then added, personal feelings are small matters. Work has to come first. As the boss, I have to prioritize the business. You're my husband. Surely you understand. I looked at her. Her gaze was frank, even holding a hint of I'm fighting for our future. You should be proud entitlement. In her heart, compared to her career, or even her assistant's moods, I was insignificant. I nodded. Okay, I understand. She finally let out a breath and smiled with satisfaction. I knew you were the most generous, sensible man. Why get back? I promise I'll make it up to you with an even more romantic honeymoon. She thought I believed her. She didn't know that the urgent European project she spoke of was actually a couple's trip to Iceland. She also didn't know that my nod wasn't understanding. It was a goodbye. After Elena left, the house felt instantly empty. Her favorite ragdoll cat jumped onto the sofa and nudged my hand, seemingly confused why I was the only one home. I opened my phone and clicked on a hidden album. Inside was another screenshot. Julian's Instagram post, visible only to a specific group. Unfortunately for him, I was in his show-off group. In the photo, he and Elena were pressed together in the blue lagoon, heads touching, making a heart shape with their hands. The background was misty steam and snowy mountains. Caption: just the two of us. Smirk. The timestamp was 30 minutes ago. The so-called urgent trip, the mentoring of a new hire. It was all a lie, she told me, to comfort another man. I calmly turned off my phone and opened a drawer under the coffee table. Inside lay a file folder. I took it out and dumped the contents. A divorce agreement. A gratuitous transfer of equity shares. And one more thing, my resignation letter. All the signature lines bore Elena's flamboyant signature. She had signed with force, as if closing a deal that would bring her massive profits. Ironically, she actually thought she was. A week ago, I had shuffled these documents into a massive stack of her company's quarterly financial reports and investment intent letters for her to sign. Honey, just check these for me. I trust your judgment. She was busy on a video call with Julian discussing a newly released movie, barely looking up as she scribbled her name wherever I pointed. 3 years of marriage had built an absolute trust in me, especially regarding paperwork. She was used to me handling everything, from household trivia to family assets. She never asked, never bothered to look. That trust used to be my sweet burden. Now it was the sharpest knife I used to cut my chains. I packed away my copy of the documents. I left the other copy of the divorce agreement and the wedding ring she gave me, which I had already taken off, side by side on the most conspicuous part of the coffee table. Then, pulling my pre-packed suitcase, I walked out of the home I once thought would be my forever. I didn't look back. The door clicked shut behind me. I placed the key under the doormat and turned to the elevator. The doors slid shut, the mirrored surface reflecting my face. It was too calm for a man who had just ended a 3-year marriage. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Mr. Cole, everything is done as instructed. The assets under your name have been divested. The resignation has passed internal channels to the board, and the divorce legal proceedings have been initiated. I replied with 2 words, thank you. A car was waiting for me downstairs. The driver was my old college buddy and the partner in my new venture, Marcus Reed. All done. He handed me a bottle of water. Yeah. I unscrewed the cap and took a sip. You really just walking away like this? Not going to tear into her face to face. I was ready to storm in there and help you cause a scene. Marcus looked eager for a fight. I shook my head. No point. For someone you no longer care about, any intense emotion is a waste. I just wanted to leave quietly and start my new life. Where to? Marcus started the engine. The airport. Going on a trip to clear your head? I'll go with you. Not a trip. I looked out the window at the rapidly retreating streetscape and said flatly, I'm going to meet a client to discuss a deal 10 times bigger than the Polaris project. Marcus glanced at me in the rearview mirror and whistled. Nice. Now that's the Ethan Cole I know. Yes, this was the real me. The business wizard who had never known defeat. Not the Mr. Cole, who wore an apron and waited by the stove for his wife to come home. Elena, the game is over. No, perhaps I should say, my game has just begun. 5 days later, Elena returned. When she called me, I was in the conference room of Genesis Tech, signing a strategic partnership agreement worth $1 billion. My phone buzzed on the table, the word wife flashing on the screen. Sitting opposite me was the founder of Genesis Tech, Robert Sterling, a man near 50 with eyes as sharp as an eagle's. He glanced at my phone, then at me, and made a gesture indicating I should take it. I picked up the phone, silenced it, and hung up. Saw the telemarketer. I smiled at him. Robert smiled too, a meaningful look in his eyes. A telemarketer that could distract Ethan Cole during a signing ceremony must be quite something. I didn't respond, simply sliding the signed contract across the table. Mr. Sterling, it's a pleasure doing business. Likewise. We shook hands, camera flashes illuminating the room, recording this historic moment. Elena had already been excluded from my history. The phone rang again. I hung up again. Then, a text message popped up. Ethan, what is the meaning of this? Why aren't you answering? Where are you? A string of interrogations, full of the rage of someone who had been disobeyed. I could imagine her expression right now, frowning, a face full of confusion and irritation. She probably came home, didn't see a hot meal, didn't see me greeting her at the door as usual, and got upset. I casually blocked her number, then sent a message to Marcus. It's starting. Marcus replied instantly. Ha ha, awesome. I can't wait to see her face when she finds out the truth. My partnership with Robert was the first gift I had prepared for my comeback. This project was something Elena's company had fought tooth and nail to get. She had prepared for 6 months. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Robert Sterling was an old friend of my father's. She also didn't know that this project had been designed by Robert specifically as my return to the mountain battle from the very beginning. The reason I had laid low in Elena's company for 3 years was partially to repay her for staying by my side when I started out, and partially to honor a pact with my father, not to touch core tech industries before I was 30. I was 32 now. The pact was void, and the debt was paid. After the meeting, Robert kept me back. That girl, she still hasn't realized you were the real anchor of her company? Robert poured me a cup of tea. She always thought the anchor was herself. I lifted the cup, inhaling the aroma. Young people, so arrogant. But it's good. Let her suffer a bit, learn a lesson. Robert sighed. It's just a pity about the empire you built for her. Elena's company, from a small workshop of less than 10 people to a publicly listed company worth billions today, behind every key decision, every core technical breakthrough, was my shadow. I had pushed all the credit to her, letting her stand in the spotlight and accept everyone's praise and adoration. I thought that was love. Later, I realized it was just my own foolish self-sacrifice. My phone rang again. This time it was a strange number. I picked it up. Ethan, where the hell are you? It was Elena's voice, exasperated, even carrying a tremor of panic she tried to hide. Looks like she saw the items on the coffee table. Does my location concern CEO Vance? My tone was flat, like I was talking to a generic business associate. Silence on the other end. The title CEO Vance was a needle popping her high-flying balloon. For 3 years, I had always called her Ellie or Babe. What do you mean? Her voice dropped, carrying confusion and a hint of fear. The things on the table. That's a joke, right? Do I look like I'm joking? I countered. I heard her ragdoll cat meowing in the background, soft and sweet, as if trying to comfort its agitated owner. Ethan, stop messing around. Come back immediately. Her tone softened, turning into a coaxing wheedle. I know I was wrong this time. I shouldn't have flaked on you for Julian. I'm apologizing. Okay. Not okay. My crisp 2 words plunged her into silence again. She probably never imagined that I, always so submissive to her, would speak like this. What? She finally asked, her voice full of incomprehensible grievance. Just because of a honeymoon trip? I said I'd make it up to you. You want to divorce me over something this small? I laughed. Small. I leaned back on the sofa, watching the traffic outside the window. Elena, in your eyes, what counts as big? Is it the company's stock price? Landing a new project? Or is it whether your precious assistant is happy today? My voice wasn't loud, but every word was a small hammer striking her heart. In your eyes, my feelings, our promises, our marriage, are they all just insignificant little things? That's not what I meant. She rushed to defend herself. How can you mix work and feelings? I'm fighting for our shared future. We don't have a future. I interrupted her. From the moment you signed that agreement, we didn't. I didn't know. I didn't know what that was. She almost screamed. You tricked me. I tricked you. I chuckled lightly. CEO Vance, before signing any document, didn't your legal team and assistants teach you to read the content first? A CEO of $1 billion listed company making such a rookie mistake. If word gets out, it'll impact the stock price. Heavy breathing came from the other end. She was choked into silence. Ethan, what do you want? After a long while, she asked wearily. I don't want anything. Divorce, split the assets, and move on. I don't agree. She immediately retorted. I won't divorce. That's likely not up to you. I stood up, ready to leave. You signed the agreement, and the legal process has started. If you want to fight it in court, I'm ready anytime. But I advise you not to. The evidence I hold is enough to make your company tank by tomorrow morning. That was my final warning. I hung up and added this number to the block list. The world was quiet. Marcus sent a screenshot of Elena's internal company chat group. It had exploded. Did you hear? Mr. Cole resigned. Which Mr. Cole? We have another Mr. Cole, the CEO's husband. Wasn't he just a house husband? When was he part of the company? You're new, right? Mr. Cole is a founding member. He conquered the market alongside CEO Vance back in the day. He stepped back for the family later, but many of the company's core tech patents are under Mr. Cole's name. Holy SHD. For real? So him resigning. Not just resigning. I heard he dumped all his founders' shares. The board is in chaos right now. I looked at the discussion expressionless. Elena, this is just the beginning. You thought I was just an accessory. Soon you'll know who actually gave you everything you have. For the next week, I vanished completely. I changed my number, moved into an apartment Marcus arranged, and threw myself into the collaborative project with Genesis Tech. I was a machine wound tight, operating at high speed. 4 hours of sleep a day. The rest was meetings, data analysis, and optimizing schematics. Even Marcus got worried. Bro, this isn't starting a new life. This is suicide. Even if you want revenge on your ex, you don't need to go this hard. I shook my head. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for me. For 3 years, I had suppressed myself. My ambition and creativity were like a blocked volcano, desperate for an outlet. I enjoyed the feeling of control, of turning blueprints into reality. It was far more satisfying than figuring out what to cook for dinner. During this time, Elena tried everything to find me. She went to my parents' house, to Marcus's company, even found a few of my old friends. But everyone held the same line. Don't know, not sure, no idea. Hitting a wall with me, she took her anger out on others. Marcus told me Julian's life had become hell. Before I left, I had intentionally left a massive technical trap in the Polaris project. It was a seemingly perfect underlying architecture that would crash the entire system if a single core parameter was altered. And the key to change that parameter was known only to me. After taking over, eager to prove himself to Elena, Julian changed a few settings he thought were trivial. Overnight, the entire project's data model turned into gibberish. This project was the focus of Elena's company for the second half of the year. The partner was an industry giant. A default would mean astronomical penalties and a destroyed reputation. Elena was frantic. She pulled all-nighters with the tech team, but couldn't find the issue. She finally realized that no one could fix this project but me. So, she started looking for me even more maniacally. That night, just after finishing a video conference, my apartment doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw the face I once loved deeply, now appearing entirely foreign. Elena stood outside, haggard, heavy dark circles under her eyes. She wore a business suit, but lacked her usual sharp polish. Her hair was messy, her face exhausted and anxious. I didn't open the door. She rang the bell for a while. Getting no response, she started knocking. Ethan, I know you're in there. Open the door. Let's talk, okay? I'm begging you. The Polaris project is failing. Only you can fix it. You can't be this irresponsible. Her voice went from command to pleading and finally to accusation. I leaned against the door, listening quietly, my heart unmoved. Irresponsible. When I handed the project to Julian, what did she say? She said, I trust him, and you should trust me. Now that there's a problem, she comes looking for the irresponsible one. The knocking stopped. I thought she had left. A few seconds later, my phone rang. It was the building concierge. Mr. Cole, your wife says she's feeling unwell and is about to faint at your door. Should we? I frowned. The sympathy card. It was her go-to move. Whenever we argued, the moment she showed weakness, a headache, a stomach ache, I would instantly soften and surrender. Too bad the same trick didn't work on me anymore. Tell her there's a lounge in the lobby, or call her an ambulance. I hung up. Outside, I heard Elena's disbelief-filled shout. Ethan, you bastard. Then the sound of high heels stomping away, fading into the distance. I went back to the living room, poured a glass of red wine, and stood by the floor-to-ceiling window. Downstairs, next to Elena's car, Julian was waiting anxiously. Seeing her come down, Julian immediately went to her, asking after her health, opening the door for her. Elena shoved him aside and got into the driver's seat herself. They seemed to argue for a moment. Finally, Julian was kicked out of the car, left standing on the curb as her white Maserati sped off into the night. I swirled my wine, watching the taillights disappear. Elena, you still don't get it. The problem was never the project. It was us. And Julian, you aren't some irreplaceable treasure. You were just a tool she used to assert her authority and spite me. Now, it seems the tool isn't working so well. The next day, as soon as the market opened, Elena's company stock began to freefall. News of the Polaris data crash had leaked. The partner publicly stated that if Elena's company couldn't solve the issue within a week, they would initiate claims and blacklist them permanently. Panic spread through the company. Marcus texted me. Guess who leaked it? I replied, I can't think of anyone but Julian. Julian was a refined egoist. Once he realized Elena was an unreliable tree, one that might push him out as a scapegoat, he wouldn't hesitate to protect himself, even if it meant biting back. By blowing the situation up, everyone would know about the project failure, making it harder for Elena to quietly pin it on him without looking incompetent herself. Sure enough, news came in the afternoon that Elena had fought the board to keep Julian as the project lead, issuing a military order. The problem would be solved within a week. She was pinning all her hope on me. She thought that as long as she could find me, bind me with marital duty, company interests, and our past, I would soften. I would come back to help. She was too confident. Or rather, she didn't know the current me at all. That evening, I received an unexpected call. It was my mother-in-law, Martha Vance. Ethan, it's Mom. Her voice was gentle as always. Mom, I answered. In my family, I wasn't close to my own parents. I was closer to my mother-in-law. She was a kind, retired teacher who treated me like her own son. It was the only warmth I felt in this marriage. What is going on with you and Ellie? How did it get to divorce? Her voice was full of worry. Mom, that's between us. I know, but Ellie, she's locked herself in the office for days, not eating or drinking. I saw her today. She's lost so much weight. It breaks my heart. I stayed silent. Ethan, couples fight. It happens. Ellie is ambitious. She has a quick temper. Sometimes she doesn't consider your feelings, and that's her fault. You're the man. Can you bear with her a little longer? Please. Mom, I've borne it for 3 years. I interrupted her. I bore the weight of my career and my life. And the result? In her heart, I'm less important than an assistant who just got here. A long sigh came from the other end. That Julian, I've seen him. Slick talker. Not a good kid. Ellie has been charmed by nonsense. Ethan, give her one more chance. For my sake, come back and help her. The company is your shared blood and sweat. Mom, the company is her blood and sweat. Not mine, I corrected. My blood and sweat were taken for granted long ago. As for the divorce, my mind is made up. I told Martha everything. Julian, the Iceland tickets, the deception. Long silence on the other end. That damn girl. Martha's voice trembled. How could she do something so shameful? I'm going to teach her a lesson right now. Mom, there's no need, I said calmly. She chose her path. She has to bear the consequences. I'm grateful for your care these past 3 years. Take care of yourself. Hanging up, I felt a bitter taste. Martha was innocent. She was the only person I felt I owed anything to. But that was all. I wouldn't stop my forward march for anyone. Elena eventually found my new address. Not through the concierge or friends, but through a private investigator. When I opened the door and saw her standing there with her mother, I wasn't surprised. Martha's eyes were red from crying. Elena looked even worse than the last time, pale as a sheet, but her eyes were strangely stubborn. Ethan, let Mom in. Let's talk properly. Martha held my hand, her tone pleading. I stepped aside and let them in. It was the first time we faced each other since I left. Elena scanned the room quickly, as if looking for something. When she saw a woman's apron drying on the balcony, left by my cleaning lady, her pupils shrank. You already have someone new. She pointed at the apron, voice trembling. I couldn't be bothered to explain. I sat on the sofa and poured myself water. Speak. What do you want? My coldness triggered her. Ethan, how can you treat me like this? She rushed over, snatched the glass from my hand, and smashed it on the floor. The sound of shattering glass was piercing. I sacrificed so much for you. I built the company this big for our family. You walk away just like that, and you've already found a replacement. Do you have no conscience? She screamed like a wounded animal. Martha was terrified, pulling at her arm. Ellie, calm down. Talk nicely. Mom, how can I be calm? Elena shook her off, pointing at me. He wants to divorce me. He wants to destroy the empire I built. And he's seeing another woman behind my back. Looking at her face, twisted in rage, I suddenly found it amusing. Elena, did you forget how this company came to be? I stood up, walking toward her. I was a head taller than her, and looking down at her now, I imposed a silent pressure. You forgot. I put up the initial startup capital. You forgot. I pulled all-nighters for 3 months to write the first core patent. You forgot. When you were frantic over a small order, who used their network to bring you angel investment worth millions. You forgot. When competitors tried to crush you and the company was nearly bankrupt, who cleared the obstacles behind the scenes so you could win. With every sentence, Elena's face paled further. The past she had deliberately forgotten, or deluded herself into thinking was her own achievement, was ripped open and laid bare in the sunlight. This company isn't your blood and sweat. It's my artwork. I let you be CEO, let you stand in the light and take the glory, not because you were so capable, but because I loved you. I thought stepping back would give us a stable home, give you peace of mind, but I was wrong. I looked at her, enunciating clearly. You never wanted an equal partner. You wanted a subordinate who obeyed unconditionally. A backdrop to highlight your brilliance. Now, the backdrop is quitting. The living room fell deathly silent. Elena stared at me blankly, lips moving, but no words came out. Martha was weeping silently by her side. So, Elena's voice was as light as a feather. The Polaris project, you can fix it, right? Even now, her heart was only on her project, her company. I laughed outright. Yes, I gave her the affirmative answer. Her eyes lit up, clutching at the last straw. Then you. But why would I help you? I cut her off. CEO Vance, we are divorced. I am your competitor. Why would I help my opponent solve a fatal problem? Ethan, she shrieked. Stop screaming. I picked at my ear. For Mom's sake, I can point you down a clear path. She quieted down instantly, watching me nervously. Declare bankruptcy and reorganize. I said flatly. That is your only and best way out. Elena froze. She looked like she hadn't understood or dared not believe her ears. Bankruptcy, reorganization, she muttered, then shook her head violently. No, impossible. The company is my life. I will never let it go bankrupt. That's not really up to you. I sat back on the sofa, relaxed. Within a week, the penalties for Polaris, the bank calling in loans, and the chain reaction from the stock crash will crush your cash flow. It won't be about whether you want to file for bankruptcy, but that you have to. I looked at her like a tantrum-throwing child. Of course, you can choose option B. What option? She asked immediately. Beg me back. I smirked. Get on your knees and beg me. Beg me to come back and clean up your mess. Beg me to return to your side and continue being your background prop. Her face flushed crimson, her body trembling with humiliation. You keep dreaming. She squeezed the words through her teeth. See? There you go. I spread my hands. You can't let go of your pitiful ego, yet you lack the ability to solve the problem. Elena, you're too greedy. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. Mom, it's late. I'll walk you down. I didn't spare Elena another glance. Martha wiped her tears, looked at me, then at her daughter, standing frozen in place, and finally sighed heavily. Ethan, Ellie wronged you. I want to ask you to forgive her. I just asked. Don't push yourself too hard. I nodded. I know. Don't worry. I walked Martha to a taxi. From start to finish, Elena didn't follow us down. Back in the apartment, the room was empty. The glass shards had been swept up, but the scratch mark remained on the floor. Just like our relationship. Broken is broken. There's no going back. The next day, I officially attended a technology summit as a strategic partner of Genesis Tech. When I stood on stage, articulating the vision for future AI smart cities, I saw Elena in the audience. She stood in the farthest corner, watching me from a distance. Watching this version of me, familiar yet strange. Confident, composed, radiant. That light used to shine only for her. Now, I was showing it to the world, and she could only stand in the shadows, looking up. After the session, I was surrounded by reporters and partners. Through the crowd, I saw Elena trying to approach, but security blocked her. She shouted my name anxiously, but her voice was quickly drowned out by the noise. Between us stood a sea of people, uncrossable. After the summit, my name, along with the new Genesis project, hit the headlines of every major financial and tech outlet. Ethan Cole, the name that had been silent for 3 years, returned to the public, I like a king reclaiming his throne. Everyone was curious who this sudden wizard was. Soon, my past was dug up. My relationship with Elena, our co-founding of her company, and my stepping back for her. It all became hot gossip. Public opinion took an interesting turn. Some call me the ultimate good man who sacrificed for love, now awakened. Some cursed Elena as an ungrateful, modern chinshimi, climbing on her husband's shoulders only to kick him away upon success. Of course, some suspected this was all a carefully orchestrated revenge play by me. I ignored it all. I was busy driving my project, busy building my team. Marcus became my deputy. We recruited talent and quickly built an elite force. Meanwhile, Elena's company was dying at a visible speed. The 1-week deadline passed. The Polaris issue remained unresolved. The partner officially terminated the contract and filed a lawsuit. Bank dunning letters flew like snowflakes. The board was infighting, shareholders were dumping stock, and the price hit historic lows, one step away from being delisted. Julian, the assistant Elena once held in the palm of her hand, became the first scapegoat. Elena fired him for gross negligence and pinned the entire project failure on him. Julian naturally didn't go quietly. The day after he was fired, he leaked a bombshell to the media. He held all the chat logs, intimate photos, and evidence of Elena embezzling company funds to buy him luxury goods. One stone kicked up 1,000 waves. If my divorce was just business gossip, Elena was now mired in a double scandal of ethics and law. A woman scorned has nothing on a man cornered. Marcus marveled at the news. Those two, dogs eating dogs, a mouthful of fur. I didn't look up from the project report. Reap what you sow. I had no interest in their farce. That afternoon in my office, I got a call from Elena. She had found my new number somehow. Ethan, you win. Her voice was hoarse, exhausted, devoid of emotion. like stagnant water. My company is going bankrupt. Oh, I turned a page. My indifference seemed expected. She didn't scream like before. She just stated facts calmly. The board decided to file for bankruptcy protection. It will be announced Monday. They, they want to ask you to come back and lead the restructuring. She paused, a tremor entering her voice. If you come back, they are willing to give you the CEO position and 50% of the shares. I paused my pen. 50% plus CEO. That meant if I nodded, the company I built with my own hands would return entirely to me. It was a tempting offer. And you? I asked. Are you willing? Long silence. I could imagine the struggle. For her to give up the empire she built, to bow her head to the man she discarded. It was worse than death. She started with difficulty. I am willing. As long as you come back, I'm willing to do anything. Her voice cracked into a sob. Ethan, let's not divorce, okay? Let's go back to how it was. You help me, and together we make the company bigger and stronger. Elena. I cut her off. You still don't get it. I never wanted your company. I hung up. Outside, the sunset was red. An era had ended, and my era was just beginning. A week later, Elena's company officially declared bankruptcy. The once glamorous business empire collapsed amidst sighs of disbelief. I didn't go back to clean up the mess. The board's 3 attempts to recruit me were all rejected at the door. Eventually, a larger conglomerate acquired them for restructuring. Elena, as the founder, was completely kicked out. She fell from the clouds into the mud, losing everything overnight. I heard she sold her downtown luxury home and moved back in with her parents. I heard Julian was sentenced to prison for embezzlement and leaking trade secrets. I heard she started drinking heavily, spending her days in a stupor. Marcus told me these things. I never asked. Her life had nothing to do with me anymore. My project was progressing methodically. The AI Smart City concept received strong government backing. We became the star project. I was busy every day but fulfilled. Occasionally, in the dead of night, I would think of the past. I'd think of the girl on the university campus in a white dress, smiling with shallow dimples. I'd think of the days in a 10-square-meter rental, sharing a bowl of instant noodles, yet full of hope for the future. I'd think of how she hugged me and wept with joy when she got her first investment. We had loved each other. That was a fact. But somewhere along the way, we drifted apart. Did time change? Did hearts change? Maybe both. One day, leaving a ribbon-cutting ceremony, I saw a familiar figure at the entrance. Martha. She looked much older than the last time I saw her, her temples graying. Ethan, she called out. I signaled Marcus to bring the car around and walked over. Mom, what are you doing here? I came to say sorry on Ellie's behalf. She pulled a small box from her bag and handed it to me. And to say thank you. I opened the box. It was the wedding ring I had left behind. Thank me for what? Thank you for not kicking her when she was down. Martha looked at me with complex eyes. The people who acquired Ellie's company. You introduced them, didn't you? I know you made sure they gave Ellie a sum of money. Enough for her to live comfortably for the rest of her life. I stayed silent. I had done that. I asked the acquirer to provide a founder's compensation fee. I didn't wish her well, but I never wanted her dead. We were husband and wife once. That was the last dignity I left her. Is she? Okay. I finally couldn't help but ask. No. Martha shook her head, eyes rimmed red. Drinking all day, listening to no one. A few days ago, she was hospitalized for alcohol poisoning. My heart gave a slight prick. The doctor said, Martha had choked up, stomach perforation. She can never touch alcohol again. Her diet has to be strictly monitored. I stood there, speechless. The iron lady who could drink anyone under the table at business galas. Now, couldn't touch a drop. Ethan, I know I shouldn't ask. Martha looked at me with the humble pleading of a mother. Will you go see her? Just once. She refuses to see anyone, won't listen to anyone. Maybe if you go, if you advise her, she might listen. Looking at Martha's gray hair and tears, I couldn't refuse. Okay, I heard myself say. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital was always oppressive. I stood at the door of the ward, looking through the glass. Elena was wearing a blue and white striped patient gown, leaning against the headboard, staring blankly out the window. The sunlight hit her face, making her pale skin look completely bloodless. She was frighteningly thin, her chin sharp, looking like a fragile piece of porcelain. I pushed the door open and walked in. Hearing the sound, she turned. The moment she saw me, a cluster of light instantly lit up in her hollow eyes. Immediately, that light dimmed, turning into defensiveness and self-mockery. Here to laugh at me? Her voice was raspy. I didn't answer. I pulled out the chair by the bed and sat down. We sat in silence. The air was filled only with the soft ticking of monitors. Why? She asked after a long time. Why help me? She meant the compensation money. For Mom's sake. I gave her the reason we could both accept. She tugged the corner of her mouth. It looked like a smile, but it was uglier than crying. Ethan, do you think I look pathetic right now? Yes. I nodded. My bluntness stunned her. The Elena Vance I knew would lose gracefully even if she lost. Not lie in a hospital bed, numbing herself with alcohol like a coward. Coward? She looked stung, sitting up abruptly. What right do you have to say that? You destroyed everything I had. I destroyed everything. I looked at her. Elena, the person who destroyed you was yourself. It was your arrogance, your selfishness, your entitlement that destroyed our marriage. It was your obstinacy, your poor judgment of character, your mismanagement that destroyed your company. I just poured a bucket of oil on the fire you lit yourself. My words were a sharp knife, slicing open the reality she refused to face. She stared at me blankly, tears falling without warning. I was wrong. She covered her face, shoulders trembling violently. I know I was wrong. Ethan, I really know I was wrong. She cried like a child, all her strength and pretense collapsing in that moment. I watched her quietly. I didn't comfort her. I didn't hand her a tissue. Some mistakes must be carried alone. Some pain must be endured alone. She cried for a long time before gradually calming down. Can we go back? She looked up, her red eyes holding a final shred of hope. Can we go back to how we were? I shook my head. Elena, there is no going back. I stood up to leave. Look forward. That was the last thing I said to her. I walked out of the ward, closing the door, and that passed behind me. At the end of the hallway, the sun was shining. Marcus was leaning against the wall waiting. Seeing me, he handed me a pair of sunglasses. Done. Yeah. How is she? She'll live. We walked side by side to the elevator. Where to next? Office? Or home? Home, I said. Marcus paused. Home? Since when do you have a home? I smiled and didn't answer. The car pulled up downstairs in my apartment. As I got out, Marcus called to me. Hey, seriously, are you hiding a beauty in there? He looked gossipy. I turned back, looked at him, and said seriously, I'm hiding a better version of myself. I turned and walked into the building. Back home, the sunset filled the living room. I took off my suit, went into the kitchen, and took a tomato from the fridge. Then, clumsily, I opened my phone and searched for how to make scrambled eggs with tomatoes. In a video, a chef in a cartoon apron was explaining enthusiastically. I mimicked him, cracking eggs, chopping the tomato. Result: I used too much oil and splattered my hand. I burned the eggs, sticking them to the pan. The tomatoes were chopped unevenly, a tragic sight. The final dish looked like a disaster. I tasted a bite, salty and bitter. Looking at that failed creation, I couldn't help but laugh. Laughing, my eyes felt hot. How long has it been since I cooked a meal just for myself? How long has it been since I enjoyed a life that, while clumsy, belonged entirely to me? My phone rang. A strange number. I picked it up. Hello, is this Mr. Cole? This is Iceland Aurora Travel. Your couple's Northern Lights package is about to expire. Do you still need it? I froze. I had booked that secretly for our honeymoon a long time ago. I looked out the window as the last rays of sunset were swallowed by the night. I need it, I said, but change it to a single ticket. The sweet voice of the customer service agent came through. Certainly, sir. Have a pleasant trip. Have a pleasant trip. Yes. My life has just begun. Epilogue 1 year later. Reykjavik, Iceland. I stood on a vast sheet of ice, wrapped in a thick down jacket, looking up at the night sky. The brilliant aurora danced across the horizon, dreamlike and ethereal. Beside me, a little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes tugged at the corner of my coat. In English, she asked, Mister, are you here to see the lights all alone? I smiled and nodded. Being alone is quite nice too. She nodded, half understanding, then pointed at the sky, screaming in excitement. Look, a shooting star. I looked up as a meteor streaked across the sky. I clasped my hands together and closed my eyes. I made a wish. I hope the next person I fall in love with remembers how to make me scrambled eggs with tomatoes. And she must remember, go easy on the salt. Story complete, story complete.